Hello to everyone listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube. It's another episode of NRG Insights. And for those that don't know, this is where we speak to influential people in the market, whether that be from lending, broking, or subsidiaries of the lending market, where we just get some insights into the business, into what they do, and just get, like I said, just some general insights. Hence the name of the podcast. So today I've got Lorenzo back on from Hampshire Trust Bank. Thanks for joining me, Lorenzo.
Thank you for having us, Marcus.
And just to kind of explain, Lorenzo has been on before, but I was having a conversation with him, and we do have some really good conversations about where the market's going and just in general. And I said I kind of spent the whole time talking about the health and well-being side last time, so I wanted to get you on and discuss, the market and the life outside of that side of things. So for those who don't know, do you want to tell people about your financial services journey and where you are now?
Yeah, okay. So just a potted history, Marcus. Sort of 25 to 30 years in financial services, predominantly in the specialist market arena. Probably back in the days of subprime market, as everyone used to remember it. So I've worked for lenders and packagers alike. Even done some broking in my time as well. So understand both ends of the spectrum and sort of empathise and sympathise with the people that I go and see today, really, because understand how difficult it is, a journey to sort of originate those transactions and get them through to completion. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Good. Let's talk about that actually, about the difficulties that guys are facing at the moment. And I suppose it does help that you've been on that side as well, right? A lot of people I speak to, especially if they've advanced their careers, they haven't just done one thing. Like I think those at the top at the moment do have an understanding of both sides of the market. But how do you? Because it's been tricky, right? It's been an interesting year. So how do you empathise with them for one, but also kind of support them when things aren't going everyone's way?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think empathy is obviously a big thing. If we look at this year, and I suppose we need to sort of address that. What we've been through from an industry perspective. If you sort of take a holistic view on the whole of 2024, you've had increasing interest rates, cost of living. You've got the unrest in the Ukraine and in the Middle East. Couple with that, and then obviously a change in government as well. So there's monumental factors of what's happened in the market. I wouldn't say the market has dipped. I would just say it went through stages where it was a little bit stagnant.
I think inconsistent is the one word I'd take from this year. That it's just there was never like 2 months where you were like, cool, this is starting to. I mean, obviously, I think the back end looks better than the front end, but it just felt inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, and on the journey with this year, speaking to brokers, I think you've seen their frustrations in regards to clients not committing or not being non-committal to transactions where they've got them on board, but they want to think about whether they want to proceed. I think a lot of that was due to obviously changes in government. I think you started to see the change once the decision was made, whether that was whoever was in government, as long as there was the stability in regards to which way they were going forward. So I think certainly since September, it's like someone's pressed the button, and you're starting to see the level of inquiries increase. But not only the level of inquiries increasing, the quality of inquiries. I think if we look through the middle of this year, the quality of inquiries some of them were substandard, not all of them, but some of them were substandard. And that's only opinion from someone that's working in a bank. And there will be a home for those type of transactions. However, my viewpoint is that there were some sort of substandard transactions that were trying to push.
Why do you think that was? Just because people were having a look, thinking they could get a quick buck when the market wasn't particularly stable. Do you think that's what it was, or maybe just a bit of or miseducation with people?
I think there's a bit of both, really. I couldn't dismiss what you're saying there, but I think there's also an education piece, which probably is another conversation, really, about educating what looks good, what doesn't look so good for the from a bridging perspective, so to speak. But not only that, from that particular lender or a particular lender.
Do you get it where, because no broker thinks that like the deal's crap, right? No one's putting you through a deal thinking this is not going to work. Everyone comes with the best possible intention that they're doing the right thing by the customer, but you must look at a lot and go, that doesn't make sense. And I know there are some amazing specialist commercial finance brokers, but there are also quite a few brokers who've come from resi since it's been tough and are not playing at it, but it hasn't been their bread and butter for years. How do you combat that? Because obviously no one thinks it's a bad deal, right? So there is that education piece.
Yeah, and again, I go back to that word education. It's about what that lender has an appetite to do and why they have an appetite to do it, and what that lender doesn't have an appetite to do, and the reasons behind that as well, and explaining that up front. I think that's really important when you're looking at a transaction, and particularly if you're going to decline a case. In my point of view is this: you need to look at every single avenue where we can look to do a transaction. If you've exhausted all of those avenues and there isn't a balance with what the client needs and what the bank needs, for argument's sake, or the lender needs, then it's a case that you have to walk away from.
And how easy is that to explain to someone who thinks that's the deal?
It's extremely hard. It's extremely hard because obviously, a lot of the brokers out there, they eat what they kill, so to speak. And don't get me wrong, they've got to do what's best for the client as well. They've probably got a very frustrated client on the end of the transaction as well. There's people's lives involved. So I understand that completely and how difficult that is. But going back to my first point, it's really a case of sort of mitigating those situations at the very early stages to say, right, here's the pros, here's the cons of the transaction. We need to mitigate the cons for us to continue going forward. And these are the reasons why. Okay. And 99.9% of the time, usually the broker understands that. And they're onboarded with that type of situation. So that's what I would say that's certainly what I would do and what my team would be doing.
Got you. Actually, out of interest, how do you combat this? Because you must get we call it spray and pray in recruitment, where people just chuck a deal out and chuck it to everyone and hope for the best. How do you deal with that? Because obviously it's 240 short-term lenders, and there must be those. I mean, there are some, again, I have amazing clients who do it as well. There are incredible brokers who package cases perfectly to give you the best understanding. But how do you deal with these cases just sort of chucked out to everyone? You got, what do you do? Do you just be selective, or do you go, I'm not working against 240 other people because it's not going to, it's constant struggle.
I don't see that many of them these days. Right. And I'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't repeat online how I feel about that, but it's infuriating.
It's not broken, is it? It's not, for me, it's not
it's
broken.
Infuriating.
Getting the lead and chucking it out and let someone else deal with it.
It's infuriating. I find that very lazy. Lazy. And what it does is
you see it less now?
I don't see that much of that now. If you look at certainly the brokers that I work with, they want to work with a selective number of partners, right. And work closely with them. Okay, so if a deal's coming into you, it's a deal that's coming into you. Okay, and there's a reason why, because they understand what our appetite is, what our process is, and obviously you have a strong relationship with them.
And also you can deliver as well, right?
Exactly.
You get the best rate in the world, not deliver, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
And with you guys, is it, again, I'm only using us as an example, but you tend to have the 80-20 rule where you've got a good bunch of brokers that give you a lot of business, or do you have a fair split across the market? Do you have the people giving you one deal here and there, or is it the majority of your business from a few good commercial brokers?
I think it's a bit of both, if I'm being honest with you. The 80-20 rule always exists. You deal with a selection of brokers that give you consistent business, but what you tend to see over time, and that's probably increased with social media and everything, that you have new brokers that come on board and want to utilise you, and they come across the odd transaction now and again that fits a bridging inquiry which they want to work with you with. Their bread and butter is generally mortgages and protection, but obviously we can entertain that as well. If it's someone that's coming out of the mortgage market and wants to try and delve into the bridging space. So
that take a bit of your time with those ones that are making the crossover, if you like, because it does work, right? If you could do a mortgage is a mortgage, but however, there is that crossover bit where you're probably not as well educated. Does that take up a bit?
Yeah, it probably takes a little bit longer to educate those individuals, but there's no preconceptions as well, which is also a good thing. So that's great from a lender's perspective. So you can educate them in what's required, and why you're asking for certain information, and it doesn't seem to be much resistance on that.
Yeah, good. So let's talk about actually marketing yourself. So you mentioned then about social media and people coming through the woodwork, as it were. How do you separate yourselves from the competition? You know what I mean? Like, as I said before, over 200 short-term lenders. How do you separate yourselves? Because USPs are great, but how do you get that out there? How do you build up that big fan base like you've got now? Because you haven't been in the bridging game that long as a bank, have you? It's not like it's. So how have you built that up?
Yeah, I think the best way to. I know it sounds the old adage at the end of the day, but I think that the key thing is the people. The people are key. If you look across our bridging division and the people that cover the width and breadth of the country, or our BDMs that cover the width and breadth of the country, their relationships with their brokers are second to none. They're really strong in regards to what our appetite is, what's required, effectively products, processing and packaging, and making a clear understanding of what we need and why we need it. And how to deliver good news and how to deliver bad news as well, which is just part of a business development manager's remit. So I'm quite fortunate.
Do you think that gets lost a bit with the modern era in regards to how you deliver bad news and stuff? Is it still you've got to install it in people as to bad news is delivered either face to face or on the phone? You're not dropping emails and stuff.
I will speak according to my team. I've got my own views about the wider market, but in regards to my team, it's something that I've always said, look, pick up the phone, provide good news, but also pick up the phone when you have to provide bad news. You'll be respected for it, and in the long-term relationship, it's going to be better for everyone. Emails, any sort of communication like that are what I call follow-ups. And it's for a trial. It's for a trial. It's for a trial basis. We work in an environment, we work in an industry where it can't all be good news. It just doesn't work like that, and it never has done over the years. And the way you strengthen relationships is by picking up the phone and managing those brokers' expectations accordingly.
Yeah, good. And let's talk about the relationship management side of things. I've been asking people a lot like this recently, so let's be like sales directors and that kind of thing. I think it's interesting. Where's your money best spent when it comes to? You can speak to a trade show where you've got hundreds of people there, or you can take out 8 or 9 brokers, play golf, whatever, have a day out with them. When you sit down and you work out where you're going at the beginning of the year, what do you think is most important? Is it reaching more people, or is it those kind of more committed relationships, if you like, where you actually the guys and you can speak to them as on a level?
Yeah, I think when you look at these things, they're always very difficult because every lender has budgets at the beginning of the year, and they look at, right, okay, what's on for this year, what's in the diary, what are we going to commit to, what are we not going to commit to, and what the reasons are. And I think one of the things is making sure you learn from previous years. So it could be learn from your mistakes or learn what works well, whichever way you want to look at it.
Is it hard to track the ROI on stuff like that? Because obviously everything's a touch point, isn't it? It must be hard with marketing. Like, we know it works, we don't know where it works. The old
and it is tough. I mean, I think there's certain trade events that I think you need to be there and you need to be seen, and they do add value.
Yeah.
But I don't think that means you have to be at every single trade show. And we've learned from that, and I've learned in the past from what trade shows work and what trade shows don't. And I think, but from my personal point of view, I think there's nothing better than having a host of 10 people round a table, in a more informal environment where you can actually talk about business, where you might have that in a more formal environment, i.e. an awards ceremony, where you speak to that person to your left and that person to your right, and everyone disperses accordingly and speaks to every other lender. So where's the value? But that's the truth.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
is.
truth.
You're right. You're paying a key
And
every time you sit down next to someone else who's also selling a similar product.
So I'm not saying that doesn't work, but there's a question mark on where's the value in doing something like that all the time. But don't get me wrong, you have to be at certain awards, certainly if you're nominated. So I totally understand that, and some of the awards are very good, and they are a good opportunity for a networking opportunity.
How do you feel about awards? Because I always think they get a bit of a bad rap, right? But I quite like it. Whether it is the best BDM or the best lender, whatever it is, or whether you have to buy a table, I think it's just a nice celebration for people in the industry to get together. I don't think we have to overthink it, but I think it gets slated sometimes on people love to
I suppose it gets slated because there's so many of them now. Where back in if you went back 10 years, probably more, there used to be probably a handful. Now you're looking at awards during the course of the year, and you sort of lose track of where you are from an awards perspective. So I suppose it's probably oversaturated, but generally awards are great. I'm probably getting a little bit old now to go to all these awards now because it gets a little bit heavy.
You'll be getting a lifetime achievement.
But I mean, look, I think awards have their place. And I think you're quite right. They're there for a celebration. If you are up for awards and you win awards, and you're noticed, which is key, which is most important. And it does, in some instances, give you an opportunity to network at the right awards.
Yeah, I love them. I just think you just got to take them not with a pinch of salt, but take them how they are. It's a good opportunity for people to get together, and again, it's that informal, formal situation where it's non-agendered stuff, and also if you win one, it's nice. You don't have to go on LinkedIn and slag off when you don't, or you didn't get nominated. But people love that. There's a select group of people who it's an echo chamber of hate for them. But I just think you don't have to go. You know what I mean? You don't have to buy a table.
Agreed.
So let's move on to your team, because obviously you've got a great team there, and like you said before, you know it. You know how well regarded they are as well. But what were you looking for when you were picking these people, or when you got, because you chuck an advert out there, say that you are looking, you get a big response, right? Don't you? You get a lot of people that are interested. What is it that puts people above the others, if you like, and also, what did you see in your current team when they were in? What is it is there a particular thing that you look for, or is it just the people?
There's so many variables to this, and where to start with this. I think anyone that's running a sales team has to take on board that you're going to be dealing with personalities first and foremost, and that is a challenge in itself. But it's a good challenge.
Salespeople, right?
It's salespeople. Yeah, that's and I'd rather it be that way than and then have, for want of a better expression, robots.
Also, everyone's just a bit nicey and no one's
everyone's got their own. Everyone's got their own personalities. They're all strong personalities. Everyone's got their opinions. They're all got different views, different outlooks on certain things, and they all come from different backgrounds, which is great. So
Do you think that's important as well? Haven't got
absolutely,
that hard thinking, yeah?
100%. It sort of solidifies the whole team. I think
Yeah.
the two key things, the major things that I look for is obviously can they do the role?
Yeah.
You know, that's fundamental. Do they know their way around a transaction? Are they technical enough to understand their way around a transaction?
Do you think, sorry, I know I could jump in, do you think that is a real key thing? Because
I think
I
so. It's
always like to reiterate that. I think the technical
100%.
knowledge side of things, I think, especially when I get like brokers who want to go into BDMs or people that want to step up into it, I think people miss on the fact that you're not just knocking on doors and going for beers with people. It's a technical job. You're pre-underwriting, right?
I think more so than ever, particularly in the bridging space now, I think that's more so than ever. What I always say to the guys is we are the first level of underwriting. It's a soft underwrite.
Yeah.
And we need to
It's
understand.
just gone are the days, aren't they, of just going, yeah, we can do that, and then chucking it over.
Yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
just
It's
doesn't work like that.
such a more technical job that I don't think people appreciate it that aren't in it.
Yeah, that just doesn't give anyone any credibility by doing that. You know, there's got to be something that we have an appetite for, understanding the structure of the deal, being able to present that to underwriting or even in some instances credit, and pushing that transaction forward. So it's absolutely fundamental. But the second thing I think is really important is being able to fit in with the culture of the business. That is really important. You know, they could be the most technically minded in the world, but if they don't fit in with the culture, it's not going to last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Tell me about culture, because everyone talks about it's in a different thing. What do you consider when you talk about the culture of business? What does that mean to you?
I think it's just understanding the principles of the business first and foremost, and you know what's required as a business, understanding their colleagues within their channel, making sure that they work in a one team ethos, which is absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, helping each other to grow and helping each other to learn. And I encourage that massively with the team.
Do you know what? That's a hard skill for sales teams, and I've found that as we've grown, having a one-team ethos with competitive people that want to, you know, personally they want to win, but also it's got to be about the business. It's got to, you know, make the boat go faster.
Yeah.
So that is a skill to have a team that gets that.
Yeah, well, I'm very blessed because I haven't got any egos in the team, and there's not enough room. We're a small team, and you know, everyone's helps everyone out, and everyone mucks in where we need to. So you know that includes that, and that has to start from the top, including me.
Yeah. Do you think that is the deciding factor as well? Do you think it's a tear down kind of the way the management acts?
Well,
because I've always been that. I've always told people to collaborate. I've always wanted them to.
Yeah.
Everyone is to win, right? Everyone wants to make more money. That's the. Yeah. But at the same time, that's a result of the collaboration and the help and being better at what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Marcus. I mean, look, everyone rolls their sleeves up, and that starts from the top. You know, it's lead from the front at the end of the day, and I've always said that. You know, you can't expect people below you, excuse me, to ask them to do certain things if you're not prepared to do them yourself.
Yeah, and the hard work thing starts there as well, doesn't it? Let's go on to a subject that we have talked about before. That is a tricky one, because we are of an older generation of salespeople, if you like. But I think it's really important because it's an interesting topic, right? And I don't know the answer. I know we've talked about it before. We don't really know the answer, but teaching the next generation of salespeople, you know, heaven forbid we should call ourselves salespeople, or business development managers, relationship managers, that have a different desire than we did. How do you combat that? How do you find out what they need and that kind of thing? Because we were very money driven as youngsters. I was trying to word it right, but I didn't. My head wasn't above the parapet because I worked hard, because everyone did. But now I feel like there's a different generation that wants something slightly different from us. How do you combat that as like a sales director type role where you're looking at people that want something different from you?
Yeah, I think the key thing, you've hit the nail on the head. Generations are different now. That's the truth. But you know, we look at that through generation and generation. When we were 20 years ago, we used to look at the older generation and say, well, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. And they probably look at the same thing now. But what I've tried to mitigate with that now is, and this is the reality of it, is that, there needs to be some sort of appeasement, and it has to come from me or the top,
Yeah.
to say,
Because it
right,
can't work the other
okay,
way, can it? It can't work
sorry,
the other way.
yeah,
We
yeah,
can't,
yeah,
we can't make that next generation change to what you want.
yeah,
I just think it's interesting how you kind of
yeah.
how you mould it to still get what you need, but
Yeah, you just have to
what they
go.
want.
You have to take a different path,
Yeah,
and I've learned that over the years, and more so over recent years, in how to approach things and how to approach things differently. How people approach things with me from the top in my
yeah.
younger years in this business doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way to approach things with the new generation of
But it
salespeople.
pushed you though, right? Because I grew up in a sales environment of getting bollocked, being frightened that I was going to lose my job and that kind of thing. And I actually thrived in it, but I don't think you can do that. I don't
No,
think that, it's a different kettle of fish now. I
no,
just think that's
it's, you're absolutely right. It's about encouragement, looking about what's gone well, what's not gone so well. How can we improve things? Where can I support you?
yeah,
That's the key thing is making sure you're there to support your colleagues. And like I said to you before, if it's a case of rolling your sleeves up and getting in the trenches, that's what we've got to do. Making sure that we support them wherever we can, where their times are difficult for them. So I think those are the key things. Encourage. I think the other thing is encouragement and give, empower them with certain things as well. I think if you go back, to our time, or maybe more, that you might find that, how much empowerment was there.
oh
There
yeah, no,
wasn't. There wasn't any. And I think you need to empower your colleagues, and trust them. It might be certain tasks, getting their views. The views is the most important thing. I was speaking to one of my colleagues yesterday about something where I had a dilemma in making a decision. I said, "Well, what's your thoughts on that?"
yeah,
They looked at me a little bit reluctantly. They said, "Well,
yeah,
why are you asking me?" Well, because I'm interested in
yeah.
your opinion, and I value your opinion.
That's the
So
other thing as well, isn't it? The more you empower people, the better they get at it. And then, like you say, it's not that high thinking of this is what I think should happen. You understand what everyone thinks should happen. And obviously, 3, 4, 5 brains are better than one, aren't they? You get more of an understanding rather than
exactly. I mean,
that
if you
old way of doing stuff where it's just my way or the highway.
when I certainly get our team together as a collective, we'll either have a weekly or a week. We definitely have a weekly meeting, and we have a sales meeting as well. It's not about me talking; it's about what their viewpoints are. A lot of the time, I might sit back and just listen to their viewpoints, in regards to what they have to say, as opposed to what I'm saying all the time.
Yeah, it's difficult because you still got to get your point
Exactly,
across. And you
exactly.
tend to find that everyone's on the same page as well, right? They're all
Yeah,
like everyone's an
we,
intelligent individual that you work with. They
yeah.
get it. They know where the problems are and where the good bits are. We just started doing the same thing rather than like one-to-ones and stuff. We all get together and we all present as to what went right, what went wrong, what we think could happen. If we need help, who's it coming from? And that's made such a difference because then we're all on the same page. And even if people aren't working directly with each other, that person knows, right, they need help with X, Y, Z. So I can always assist with that. And that's been great because it also takes a bit off your shoulders. You're
It
not doing
does,
the guesswork.
and what it does, it brings a lot better harmonious environment as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because we all agreed on this. It's a little bit like the values and stuff, like you said, with the culture and stuff. If everyone is on the same page, you go, look, we all agreed this, so it's very easy to follow then. Whereas if it's just you telling people all the time, you're not getting the buy-in, and then things kind of fall by the wayside.
Exactly.
Good. So let's go into leadership. Obviously, we talked about the team, and you said it's kind of, it is leadership from the top down. You have to show work ethic and that kind of thing. What else do you think? Especially, I'll be interested to see whether you think it's changed over the years as well. But what is a good leader? What's the difference between someone that makes it in this industry and someone that perhaps doesn't have a good following?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with I've worked for numerous people over time, and over the span of probably 25 to 30 years. And I think what you'll see, if I look back and reflect over that 25, 30 years, I think I've worked for what I call managers and I've worked for leaders. And there's a big difference, a massive difference. And I think if you're looking at leaders, leaders tend to, like I've mentioned to you before, sort of empower their staff accordingly and provide them with guidance. And that's the biggest difference, I would say. And I've worked for a number of those, and you just tend to sit back in awe sometimes, and I've worked for quite a few.
Do you think that's a natural thing for those people as well? Because I know what you mean. Those people who just like, wow, the way they empower people. Do you think that's natural? Do you think you have to learn it?
I think it comes natural to some people, and I think it has to be. It's something that people that are maybe then put into those positions, it might take a little bit more time to grasp the element of leadership, but they are two differential things. Management is very much, this is what we're going to do, this is the approach that we're going to take, and that's pretty much it. It's hard and fast. Leadership is slightly different in regards to trying to get collective views, providing a lot of guidance, and again, just empowering those individuals and making them the best they can possibly can. And you'll tend to find that the best groups are usually run by leaders as opposed to managers.
Yeah, and I genuinely, it always sounds a bit like motivational bullshit and that kind of thing, but it's so true. If I look at the businesses who are doing really well, and then you look at the people at the top, it is tear down from the top. And also, on the other side of the coin, you see the guys that really struggle to recruit, or they really struggle to grow, and then you look at the guy, or how people are treated, or the revolving door type businesses, and that's also a tiered down thing for management. So it does make a massive difference. It's a huge, like you said, huge difference between leadership and management, which is strange because everyone's going for the same goal as well, right? Whether you're a manager or a leader, the end goal is still the same. You're still doing X, Y, Z that you want, but it's just the approach is so much different, and you see the difference in the quality of business. Just so in regards to I know we talked about your competitor, like trying to get not above your competitors, but you've worked on your BDM team are excellent. You're out there getting relationships and that kind of thing. Social media wise, you guys are very busy on it. Is that something that you've had to learn and push? Because I mean, from an anecdotal point of view, not all salespeople want to do it, but you can see the advantages in it. How's that been for you? Like the shift from just like phone bashing, if you like, to social media. How's that transition?
It's been for me. It's been tough over the years, but I've adapted to it. I think quite well, if I'm being honest with you. There's a lot for me to do still, which I want to continue doing. But we're talking about generations of sales. I think this generations of salespeople are exceptional on social media. I think they're exceptional. I mean, I've got some great people within my team that are great on social media, but it comes naturally to them. It probably doesn't come as naturally to me as some of the others, but I've sort of forced myself to get on social media. Maybe do
that is the magic as well. Like the fact that you're aware enough to know that, like you said, like we're all still learning, right? None of us have finished the article. We still need to get on board with this stuff. It's very blind when you see people who go, "I don't need to do that. I've done it 20 years." Do you know what I mean? I'm over that side of things. Leave it for someone else. We all still need to do it, right? We still need to.
And for those who know me, I'm not shy in coming forward. There'll probably be people laughing about that, but I'm not shy in coming forward. But it's just about how you adapt yourself on these social platforms accordingly.
It's so unnatural, isn't it? It's unnatural to be.
It takes time. It takes time. and I totally understand that. But it's something that I've just persevered with. I'm quite comfortable with it. I do encourage it with the team, but I wouldn't try and push them too far. Some are comfortable with social media, some aren't. It's just one of those things, and it all eventually.
Do you see a direct correlation yet between people that are good at social media and success? Is it got to the point where you go, look, if you don't do it, you won't make as much? You know, if you want to boil it down to the brass tacks,
I don't think I wouldn't drive it to that extent. If I'm being honest with you, and I don't think there's anything sort of statistically to say that would be the case.
No, it would be anecdotally, wouldn't it? But
there's a lot of successful people that don't use social media, but you know, like I said, it's a way of the world now. All these social platforms, we see it all the time, and listen. I think it's a great thing if it's used in the right way, in the positive way, and you certainly there's a lot of education from social media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So I will. I'll leave it again. I've gone over again, shocker. But what do you think next year? Once we get the budget out of the way, because obviously that's next week. Don't know when this goes out, but the budget will have already been announced when this goes out. What do you think? Is what it looks like for next year as the industry once we get over the challenging times that we've had? How do you see it? 2025, 26, I'm moving on.
I think one of the things that we've seen over decades is, you know, when you've seen an economic downturn, there's always a revival. I think there's probably, they say there's probably going to be around about a 15% increase in the resi market, for argument's sake, in 20 over the next, I think it's next 5 years.
Which is a big lump when you think we've lost 15% of the advisors. So you know, pound for pound, that's a lot more.
Yeah. So next year, I suppose I'll probably correlate to, obviously, from a bridging space. I think you'll see much more confidence with investors moving forward on transactions. They'll continue to take a holistic view on their property portfolios, where they can increase more yields. So I think you'll see a lot more refurbishment projects in there, you know, whether that's for existing properties that these investors have to improve them, to get better tenants into the property or extend them so they can yield more, or they convert them to HMOs, multi-unit freehold blocks.
You get much more of that, because obviously I know the HMO market's gone crazy since the buy-to-let market.
We get a lot more from a bridging perspective, and obviously our specialist mortgage team, they do a lot of HMOs as well, from a term perspective, which is an increasing market from yielding. You're seeing a lot. There's going to be a lot more social housing next year. And to be honest with you, it's the old adage really in regards to supply and demand. The supply's out there. The supply's not out there, but the demand is. You know, and the demand outweighs the supply, and that's always been the case in the UK. So, you know, I see a lot of changes from that going into 2025. I think the challenges you may have, without putting a dampener, is how things are going to materialise out in the Middle East, whether that's going to dampen the UK economy or not. But I want to try and keep a positive note. You know, that interest rates, you know, we had an interest rate drop in the summer, back end of the summer. I think there'll be another drop in November.
I hope so. That's when my fixed rate finishes on my mortgage. So
I think there'll definitely be another interest rate drop in November. You know, inflation's at a below target rate at the moment. How long it'll stay there, I don't know. Even if it increases
positive
slightly.
News, though, right? And we could dwell on the Middle East, because that is the big issue at the moment. That's maybe the one thing that can catastrophise next year. But like you say, there's so many positives on the other side that hopefully it's.
So, you know, I suppose it's looking at both sides of the coin really and being realistic about it. You know, from a positive perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunities there, particularly in that bridging space for investors and clients alike.
Nice, good. And so, if anyone wants to talk to you, Lorenzo, or anyone in the bridging team, what's the best way to get hold of you guys?
Well, you can on our website. You can go on the website and have the contact numbers for everyone, all our BDMs around the country. They'll have their email addresses and their contact numbers. Also, you'll have our BDEs, our business development executives that we've set up now that you can access as well. You can get their contact details on the website as well as my details as well. Anyone wants to pick up the phone, speak to me about transactions. You know, I can never get away from transactions. It's part of my DNA.
Yeah, good, amazing. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on again, because I know we didn't go so much we didn't cover the first time, so I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to speak to me.
No problem at all. Thanks for having us.
That's all right. No problem at all, mate. Always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening on Spotify. It's been another episode of NRG Insights. Thank you, Lorenzo. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.